Awesome.
Yeah. So whenever you're ready, go for it.
Hi, this is Travis Jones from RBT Gyms, and you're listening to Jeff Smith from Vroom Vroom Via. Vroom Vroom Via, right? Sorry, man.
It's good. I like it.
I'm just spitting that out.
It's a bit of a tongue twister, but you did fine. It's perfect. We'll use it.
Okay.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Arthur Carmazzi, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Beer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It is going awesome, Jeff. You know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning here, and I am excited to be here.
And you are full of energy, so thank you. Thank you for staying up late or getting up early, whatever you did, to be on my show. So I am flattered, honored, and I appreciate your effort to hang out with me while you're in Bali there at 1 o'clock in the morning. So thanks.
Well, the honor's mine. Here I am, ready to go.
Ready to go. So talk a little bit about what you've got going on over there at coloredbrain.com and any other one of your URLs that you'd like to mention.
Wow. Okay. Well, see, coloredbrain.com is Colored Brain is a model that identifies your brain's genetic ambiguity relief process. In layman's terms, that basically means how your brain gets clarity. And that means that you can kind of figure out the processes that you use to get clarity and why other people just kind of like when you're explaining something to them and you know that you're being very clear and you say, do you understand? And they say, yes, I do. And then they go and do something completely different.
Yeah, that happens all the time, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. Aha. So what you're doing is you need to figure out what color your brain is, so then you know how you get clarity, right?
How, for that matter, there's even a system in there, and all the people on your team also know. You can see how all of them get clarity, and even find out what you can do to improve relationships and productivity with them
between different colored brains.
There you go.
Wow. You know, I actually think that it helps me think to stand up and talk through a problem in front of people and then use a whiteboard, right? Is that a color of brain? I definitely need to talk through things, right?
Well, okay. Well, Jeff, I mean, in your particular case, I mean, because, we've been talking here for a few minutes now, okay? Mm-hmm. You appear to have what is called chaotic processing.
Interesting.
Right? So chaotic processing. Remember, this is just a clarity-getting process. This is not about, what motivates you or whether you're a risk taker or whether you use whiteboards or like ponies or anything, right?
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, this is just about clarity. Okay, and a chaotic processor, this is a person who basically, in order to get clarity, what they need to do is because nothing is connected, they need to actually start taking action. And some of that action could be like asking questions or doing something over here, but you actually have to actively start doing something to get clarity.
Right. Okay.
And is that you?
Yes. I think so. Like moving, talking, screwing up, messing around. Right?
Exactly. In fact,
yes.
Chaotic processors,
yes.
or what we call the green brain, make more mistakes than any other brain color.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes. No, I'm an embracer of screwing up. Yes, I can tell. I get it. I think I get it.
But do you know also that green brains or chaotic processors also recover fastest than any other brain color from their mistakes? In fact, sometimes you recover so fast that nobody even knows you made a mistake. And while you're making mistakes, you actually can find even better solutions than the original one that you had.
Right. Well, I just think of it as like fast experimenting.
And there you go. But
Right.
other people are going to look at that and they're going to go, "Oh my gosh, this guy is reckless." And
What a doof. Yes, I get it.
Process is totally different than yours.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah, I can. A good example of this is I played a video game called Portal 2 in co-op mode with a friend. Okay. And this game was probably the most fun cooperative puzzle solving game that you could play with another human, but I digress. So every puzzle, every level, right, had two things, right? You had to figure out what was going on, right? I.e. what to do, okay?
Right.
In the puzzle, right? And then after you figure out what to do, then you have to execute that plan, okay? And so two distinct processes, right, that take like different sorts of effort, and you have to do it with a buddy, okay? So my approach was always just to run around and rapidly die. All right. And just kill myself over and over and over again until I learned, right? And he was very, very careful. And all he did, he didn't want to die, but he would look around and look at things and how they relate and not die, but just like, okay, that's there. Oh, what's that doing? Right. And while he's doing that, I'm flailing around and having a really good time dying. It was a very like low threshold for death. You know, you died and then you immediately came back and you were alive again and your old body was gone. You know, it was just like, oh, I died. You have a little chuckle and then you're doing it again, you know? So anyway, yes. I think it's a best definition I've ever had of my brain. So thank you.
There you go.
So is there a story from somewhere in your life, either childhood or when did you figure that out, and what's the story about how you came up with colored brain idea?
Oh, colored brain. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, I got a lot of stories, Jeff. I mean,
I can tell. That's good.
But see,
you're on the right show.
First of all, I mean, anybody that's, because my whole life or my whole business and success and everything has revolved around psychology and how to basically improve teams, how to improve organizations, and for that matter, even large organizational cultures.
Right.
And so people that go into psychology, for the most part, are basically screwed up.
Yeah, I can agree with you with some experts. No, I know.
It was see. Okay, you're the foundation of this. Okay, I'll tell you. See, I at one point I found myself chasing a girl to go to Korea, and
chasing a girl to go to Korea.
I didn't have a job, so I talked this other company into letting me open a branch of their consulting company that did franchises in Korea, and I would be the managing director. And this way I got to go and chase this girl to Korea. So anyway.
Wow. That's a really good plan to get a girl. I love it. Good for you.
And so
this could be a movie.
I'm doing this and eventually, although it was slow at the beginning, eventually, this company, we started to do some really, good profitable work with this company. And
did you get the girl?
Well, I got her for a while.
That's good enough. That's a catch.
You know how it goes, right?
I do. Yes, I do. You couldn't leave me hanging on that, though.
Yeah, but that's a totally different story.
That's fine.
So I ended up thinking, hey, I'm making so much money for this company. Hey, I can make all this money for myself. So I thought, man, because when you're really good at something, your ego starts to kind of get in there, and you start to think, I am just so awesome,
right?
And so your head gets a little big. I was like, I can do it myself. So I took one of my franchise ideas and I moved to Singapore and I started it up, and I took all my money, and then I borrowed another $500,000. Wow! And within a year and a half, you know what happened?
You were broke.
No, not even broke. I was $500,000 in debt.
Ooh.
I don't know if
That's
you've ever
worse
been
than
to
broke.
$500,000 in debt. It
No.
is really no fun. Do not try this at home.
Okay.
And so I needed to get a job. I got this job. I was a department head in this big multinational company. And I thought, wow, you know how you first get a job and you're like really excited? It's like, wow, you can see the future, you can see what's going on, and you just know that that you are going to do great things and you are going to add so much value, and then there's going to be so much benefit, and your life is going to change, and you're going to have roses in your future.
Yes.
And you remember that when
I do.
you're excited and you're
Yeah.
and well, I was like that. I was very excited in this first job, and then about like 3 weeks later, reality started to kick in, and I started seeing all these other people, like they're blaming each other, and like the people, these guys are blaming the finance department, and the finance department's blaming the marketing department for going over budget, and then of course the R&D guys are looking for the procurement, who's also blaming the finance department. Actually, everybody blamed the finance department, but
Of course.
the
It's their
thing is,
fault.
it's like, man, I'm thinking, what is wrong with these people? And I'm thinking, no, I could make a difference. I knew I could make a difference.
Okay.
So I came up with these really cool ideas. And have you ever come up with some cool ideas, Jeff?
I have occasionally had some success coming up with cool ideas.
There you go. And I'd go to these different, these other department heads, and I'd say, hey, look, you've got some resources and I've got some resources, and we can pool our resources together and we can do this stuff, and it's going to do all these great things for the company. And they'd look at me and they'd say, we understand that you are new.
Yeah.
And
that happened to me a
like,
lot, actually.
Basically, they just said, look, you do your thing, we'll do our thing. You got your department, we're busy, okay?
Who let you in? Yeah.
and I'm thinking,
Right.
man, what is wrong with these people? And I knew I could make a difference. 4.5 months later, you know what happened?
No.
Without even realizing it, I started blaming people, and it's like, hey, these people over here, and in sales, what are they doing? And these people over here, and the vice president, he's doing this, and I started blaming.
You started playing the game that you were in.
I did, and then people would come up to me and they'd say, hey, Arthur, can you help me with this? I'd say, look, you do your thing, I'll do my thing.
Right.
I got sucked in.
Yeah.
And I
drank
didn't
the
even
Kool-Aid.
realize it. and without and after a while, it was just like I felt stuck in my job, and I felt like this whole future that I had envisioned was just gone, and I couldn't quit because I needed the money.
Right. Okay.
And so I'm feeling stuck, and and I thought, oh my gosh, I was like, I just felt that I was just going through the motions, and
right.
I became an
I was
underachiever.
there. Right.
Yeah, I became, when you look at people and they're kind of doing busy work, but they're not really being that productive. Yeah,
Or just pretending to work, one or the other.
Yeah. No, I was busy, but I wasn't really
Busy doing nothing. Right.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and it just kind of I didn't even like that. I didn't like the person that I had become in the process of doing this job. And this passionate, excited person that I was, I'd go in there, and it was like it changed the person that I was. It changed my energy, it changed my excitement, it changed my passion. And I'm thinking, it's because of these other people. And one day I decided to, look in the mirror, and I thought, man, you suck.
Aw.
And not you, Jeff. I mean,
I
like,
get it. Yes, you're talking to
mirror,
yourself.
right?
I get you. Yeah. But thanks.
And, so I'm going into I decided I was going to talk to these department heads, these other guys, these bad people that were making my life difficult. And I found out something totally unexpected. I found out that they were real human beings.
Right.
And that they also got sucked in. And so, after kind of, talking to these people for a while and just kind of like just
getting to know them a little bit,
getting to know them
outside the game.
Yeah, I realized that they weren't really that much different than I was.
Right.
And they also wanted to have certain standards. They wanted to have the teamwork, and they also just got, became part of the culture.
Right.
And I thought, wow, well, okay, so there's something bigger than this. So I started doing research, and I started doing research into why people were basically doing that. And the first thing, that I wanted to find out was about personality. So I looked at all these different personality things and everything else. And I found out, the first thing I found out that, all these personality things are really great, but personality is just way too complicated to put into any kind of test.
Okay.
So, and even if you could come up with something that was relatively comprehensive, it's still complicated. So only, only the people that really study it know anything about it. And then it becomes not practical because the normal people aren't going to memorize this stuff.
Right. Okay.
Right. So, so why are people motivated? What is it that they're doing and everything else? So I found out that there was, looking at all the, a couple of, or three specific researches that were done behind certain personality tests. Okay. I found out that there was some basic some basic foundations that were across all three, even though they all had come up with totally different conclusions of how personality was formed and where your personality comes from and everything else. But there was some foundations that were consistent across multiple different types of research. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, what's this? And so it turns out that it basically it's how people essentially process information. Okay. And so the foundation of how people process information, if you just kind of bring that out and then, you're looking a little bit more into that, that's basically how people are essentially getting clarity.
Okay.
And so then with further research, there is also the motivation. Now, motivation is not part of how you get clarity, but it's also so looking at it separately, okay, you can kind of put these things together and then you can come up with, a reasonable idea of this plus this equals this, right?
Okay.
So primary motivators are different at different points in your life, and and they change. Yeah. But it turns out that like the foundations of how you get clarity doesn't change.
Oh,
it's genetic.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So like your brain is constantly changing, right? I mean, you're literally, this after this conversation, your brain will be different.
Right.
Okay. And there's this thing called neuroplasticity. You can build habits by consistently doing and acting and rehearsing things over and over again.
Sure.
Okay. But see, the genetics doesn't deal with your synapses. It deals with the regulation of specific neurotransmitters. Okay. I'm not going to get into the details. Okay.
Right. That's a little too heady.
But the thing is that it's that the genetics is different than the structure of your brain. And so that basically identifies how all of these connections are formed and how you get clarity. So for example, like I was saying, you being chaotic processing, okay, you have a very specific way of getting clarity. So your brain process is actually very fast, which can be good or bad, right? Okay, I mean, you can literally solve problems on the spot and figure things out as you go. Okay. Right. But it's like driving a Ferrari at 200 miles an hour down the road. You're not going to be looking at the details.
Right. It's a little dangerous. Yes. I know. I get that. Yes.
All right. So there's good and bad, right? So while you got like some other processors, say for example, like linear processing. Okay. Well, this is all about finding structure. So you need to find structure. So, this is kind of like the bullet train, right? Okay. So in order to find, that you have a destination, you have a direction, you see what it is, where you're going. I mean, you have this whole thing and it's all structured. So if there is no structure, it's a little bit frustrating. And then you'd find the structure or create structure. Okay. But for example, you get somebody that's linear processing and somebody that's chaotic processing like you. Okay. and they're looking at you as like, oh my gosh, where's your structure? And it's like, come on, man, let's just do it. It's like, oh my gosh, and there's becomes conflict,
Yeah.
right? And of course, if they want you to do things their way,
and I want them to do my ways.
you're thinking, my gosh, this person doesn't trust me. They don't respect me. I mean, what's the deal?
They're moving so slow.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And because they need to find the structure, they're moving so slow. And you're going, come on already. I mean, what is it? What is this?
What's your problem, dude? Yes.
And they're thinking you don't respect them or trust them, and so therefore you
not only that, and they're running to the boss saying that guy's crazy and he's going to kill us all.
Exactly.
Right.
And so this creates lack of trust, and of course, if you don't feel trusted, you don't feel respected, you basically become disengaged, and if you become disengaged, well, then eventually you start to underperform.
Right. And then you're also like, you're getting into that sort of like, that's when you sort of like get into playing that blame game and just like you're withdrawn and you're backing off and you're like not.
Well, actually,
you're not trusting the people
blame
anymore.
game. Okay, that's again. I mean, that goes back to the emotional drives, right?
Okay.
I mean, blame is actually a reaction to somebody taking away, or the possibility of someone of your essential sense of recognition being taken away from you, your sense of value. So the motivation of value, of being valuable, of having a sense of significance and recognition.
Right.
When that gets taken away, the reaction is blame. I mean, you don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, my target today is blame 5 people.
Right. It's a reaction to something that you perceive as, somebody like taking away your whatever. What did you call it? Like the value, right?
Yeah. A sense of value, or a sense of significance.
Right. Okay.
But see, because let's say, for example, your process is different than theirs. Of course, then you use that. They're doing it that way. That's why it's not going to work. Okay.
Right.
And of course, that it helps you to be justified by making them wrong, because their process, which is so obvious to you, which is common sense to you, is totally alien to them.
Right. No, I ran into this quite a bit. In the Air Force, I worked with a lot of engineers. So,
right.
And I'm trying to think like aeronautical engineers. So like they kind of like have to figure out like satellite orbital mechanics. Right? So it's like, I don't know how to describe them in brain terms, but everything's a math problem to them, right? So they get clarity with math. So I don't know what sort of brain that might be.
Well, I mean, again, is it people that generally go into engineering, or people that excel in engineering, or what we call purple brain, or what we call relational processing? See, for example,
okay.
With the green brain, okay, well, like you, nothing is connected. With relational processing, or purple brains, everything is connected, but it's connected through data. So what ends up happening, the more information, the more details they get, the more options that appear. And so then they basically identify, okay, I've got this, the clear option 1, clear option 2, clear option 3. And so then they choose, okay, let's choose option 2, after kind of looking at it and stuff. But to get to that point, I mean, it just requires so much information and so much details, and they're looking at every little bit of every little piece of everything.
Right.
Sometimes they make excellent engineers, and so that's why oftentimes they go into that field.
That makes sense. Yeah. I sat next to this. So what was the scenario? What was the story? So there was a lady working on her master's degree, and she showed us this video where we're supposed to like vote on this mock trial. It was sort of like a fake trial, where there was like this lawsuit against this construction company because a worker was hurt. And the worker was hurt because they didn't put safety measures in place when they were digging this big pit. Okay. And then the pit collapsed and some machinery fell and a worker was injured. Okay. So I go, yeah, they should pay. Right? That makes, I was done. And the lady next to me, the engineer, literally was filling like pages with like really complicated math. I was like, okay, all right, yes, we are vastly different in our thinking modes, right? So yes, so there's definitely something to that. The other thing I wanted to add was the thing that you said at the beginning about like most people that go into psychology are screwed up. I actually did a bachelor's degree in psychology, which you can't do anything with a bachelor's degree in psychology. You know that. But that's what I figured out was, wow, I really don't want a job in psychology for just that reason. Anyway, okay. So that, I think I kind of got that in that job. That's when you sort of like developed this whole colored brain theory that you then later on turned into a practice. Am I getting close there?
Yeah, well, see, actually, colored brain is one of the models in what is called the directive communication body of work. So directive communication psychology is actually a complete body of work that's got all these different models that you can use to completely change an organizational culture and see visible results in like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's pretty impressive. So that's
it actually is.
I know.
It's because nobody does this stuff. Well, at least not the way that we do it, because it's we have what we call the revolution model. You know how the CIA goes and creates revolutions in different countries, or at least allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. I've heard stories of these allegations. Yes.
Yeah. So that's similar to the to what the special forces call force multiplication.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
And
okay.
Anyway, so it's anyway, you get what happens is you get these. You go and you find what were called key influencers of the within like maybe the poor people, and these people, they may be they're just people that other people trust, respect, and and so these guys have some clout. And so then you say, hey, look, if things change, look at all the benefits you guys will be able to have, and da 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 da. And so you get them to rile up everybody else and start from there. And then of course you go to the middle class if there is one, and you get and you talk to the key influencers there, and you'd say, hey, look, if things are changed, look at all this stuff you could do. And then of course you go to the upper classes. Hey, you guys have all the money, but you're limited to your lifestyle. Look, if things were changed, look at all these great things, and they get all these other people riled up at their different levels and stuff. So if you think about it, it's senior management, middle management, and basically everybody else. It's the same thing, right?
Right. Okay.
So it's a lot easier to get the people, because every revolution starts with the people. Okay, if you got 1,000 people, okay, coming up with this idea and this framework for an organizational culture that benefits the organization and them at the same time without getting extra pay, because that's not what it's for.
Right.
And then it's. And then it's a lot easier to get 1,000 people to get like the senior guys at 5 or 6 senior guys to buy in than it is to get the senior guys to try to get 1,000 people to buy into their idea.
Yeah.
But the trick is that the senior guys already know what's going to happen even before we start this. So when they buy in, it's already predetermined, and so they can instantly go, okay, let's do it. And people are going, wow, we did this, and then you put in the sustainability measures where they hire the commander and the generals to implement, and then they have elections every 3 months to for the implementation team and stuff. And anyway, you create this whole fun gamified process where people really understand each other, they solve each other's problems, and basically are much more productive and having much more fun and more engaged at the same time.
So are you, is one of the key elements in this idea that you're trying to build like psychological trust?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one of the key things is, people get disengaged because there's literally lack of trust.
Right.
And there is oftentimes a sense of lack of respect. And people aren't doing this on purpose.
No.
Okay. It's just, it just happens because of this lack of awareness. And when you gamify communication and awareness and all of these other little things, and we use an app called Squadly, Squad with an L-I. And,
Squad with an L-I.
Yeah, and it basically you can create these like gamified performance measurement. I mean, Facebook is gamifying your life right now, right? I mean,
Right.
you're always checking, oh, how many likes I got? You know, it's like,
Yes.
oh, look, I got these people shared. Oh, look at all these comments. And
Right.
so Squadly basically does that for your performance.
Okay. That helps. It helped that those kind of like games like definitely help getting buy-in. But what's the sort of like so like I've got a job, right? And
Okay.
in my current job, like I don't know the timeline, but maybe say like around 2007-ish, there was a divorce in the organization.
All right.
So part of the organization, a very small part, separated and divorced itself from the rest of the people in the building and the site. Okay, so it's like the government, right? And
Right.
and the awkward thing is after the divorce, they didn't move. So it's sort of like, okay, mom and dad are living together, but they're not married, and dad still runs the house.
But does Dad have any more girlfriends coming in?
Let's see. That's a good question. Of course,
I mean,
yeah.
that would really be awkward, right?
That's super awkward. But it's crazy. The whole like the mom and dad are fighting kind of dynamic, and I'm brand new, and these people have all been here like, some of them have been in the building for like 17 years, so
Wow.
yeah. They know everybody, and I'm the guy that's just me, right? You already figured out how I like to figure things out, and everybody's just looking at me like, oh, there's that idiot again, So anyway, okay, so that's fun. I like the whole idea, especially the colored brain and how you can use that to create trust. So okay. I want to talk, when we were chatting a little bit, you were telling me about how you built this castle in Bali. Let's talk a little bit about this just to have a little bit of fun.
All right. Well, okay. I mean, when you're a kid, you've got these ideas, right? And so, I
Yes.
mean, my name is Arthur. So,
My middle name is Arthur, by the way.
Oh, really? Cool. All right.
There's not many Arthurs, so we need to high
There
five.
isn't.
Right.
And so, Arthur, and of course I was always into knights, and of course there's King Arthur, and the whole
Right.
thing, and so I've always into knights and castles and then of course you watch all the movies and like everything from all the old castles and Indiana Jones and now even like with Harry Potter and stuff. So I created because I travel a lot. I travel around the world and I talk on subjects like related to basically what we're talking about, and I've
Right.
written a whole bunch of books and so I got two kids right now who are now 11 and 8 years old.
Okay.
And so I didn't want to travel as much. So we built this castle, which is kind of also like this retreat center here in Bali.
Awesome.
And there's a round table and everything. I mean, it's
Wow.
Arthur, right?
Yeah, it's Arthur. Arthur, you gotta have a round table if you're Arthur.
Yeah, you gotta, right?
All right.
And so you got like all these secret passages. I mean, there's these statues, where they're like this. You have to, like in Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom. There's a statue where you push the breasts and it goes in. And got one of those, and
Wow.
and
I love it.
Revolving bookcases, and then other secret passages in the bookcases, and
Dragons in the basement.
Sorry.
Dragons in the basement. You need dragons in the basement.
No Game of Thrones today. But I think we do have bats.
Okay, that's awesome.
Okay, so yeah, we do have bats.
I'll take bats.
And so all these passages kind of go around and stuff, and and the swimming pools go into the bathroom and stuff. So it's really cool.
I love it. And the new toy that I just got. Now, okay, I can't. It doesn't nowhere competes with a an awesome castle with secret passages and revolving bookcases in Bali. Yay. Congratulations. But I just got a new Nissan Leaf. You know, so that's
electric, isn't it?
It's all electric. It's so cool. I'm going to be nerding on this for a while. You know, I just like looking at the fact that I've got a car plugged in.
That has got to be cool.
It's really fun to drive too. Anyway, I digress yet again. Okay,
but no, are those things fast? I mean, you know, like do you still have this kind of a sports car feel to it?
No. Well, okay, yes and no. Like if you're at a stoplight, your 0 to 40 is really good. But after you get to 40, your 40 to 60 is painfully slow. So it's not a Tesla, okay? The Tesla can go, that's like more sporty. These things are more geared towards like a very comfortable golf cart. It's about saving money and saving, the technology is getting better. But a full tank of gas only gives you 80 miles of range. So if you drive like a maniac, you waste your battery. Right. So it's really hard for me. I have to make a different game. Really.
There you go.
I have to make a calm game. I actually, as I was driving it home from the dealership last night, I realized that it's almost perfect for me because I have made a game of trying to. I think I watched an episode of the TV show Mythbusters once.
Okay.
And part of that was they were trying to optimize fuel efficiency. Okay. Driving from San Francisco to LA. And they had all these different like fuel optimization techniques. And I don't know why, but when I watched that show, it just really got into my head about how to make driving more fun. But not in the way that most people think of, like a race car kind of driving. It's more like driving like an old person.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing of enjoyment, right? I mean, anytime you plan something, and when you get it and it's new, and I mean that whole process is what creates joy. Okay.
Right. That
after
novelty.
a while, it's going to become normal.
Right.
And then you got to get a new toy.
Then you have to get a new toy.
And you got to plan for the new toy. But it's the planning part. It's like finding. It's like looking at it's like, I want to get this color. I want to get this, and I want to do this. And
right.
The
longer you plan,
that whole thing, that process, that is joy.
Right. That is joy. I get a lot of joy out of that process. It's pretty fun. It usually it's not typically cars, but when I saw that people were buying electric cars, and then I read blogs about them, and I realized I got kind of lucky because I know my job that I just gotten last August, I can totally just go to work, park the car, and never use it all day, and then go home. Right. So I've had lots of jobs where I'm driving all day too. Right. At work. Right. This isn't one of those jobs. This is a job where you park your car, you go to the office, you're in the office all damn day. You don't even go out for lunch.
Okay.
And then you leave in the end of the day. So it's perfect for an electric car. So it's 12 miles there and 12 miles back, plug it in, and I'm ready to go for the next day. So it just worked out. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're getting ready to wrap up. So let's talk a little bit more about what's going on with you and where people can best get in touch with you.
Wow. Well, okay. I mean, there's the easiest way to find me is go to Carmazzi.net, which is Carmazzi is CARMAZZI.
Gotcha.
.net.
.net. Okay. So is it ArthurCarmazzi.net or just Carmazzi.net?
No, just Carmazzi.net.
Wow, even better. There's not that many Carmazzis, I take it.
There is not. You are right. There is not that many Carmazzis. And if you look up Arthur Carmazzi on Google, I take up the first 40 pages.
It's you. It's all you.
It's all me.
That's awesome. Well, good for you. And this has been a blast, Arthur. I appreciate you being on the show, and thanks for hanging out with me at 1 a.m. in Bali. It's probably
Jeff,
almost 2 a.m.
It is a pleasure. It was really fun having being on your show.
All right. Thanks. Have a good one.
You too. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Or morning.
Yes.
Whatever.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.